So ScottsMiracle-Gro CEO came out and had some firm words to say about legalization. Now, this isn't the first time that ScottsMiracle-Gro got involved in the legalization conversation, because not too long ago, the gardening giant bet tons of money. I'm talking $1.7 billion on lighting, nutrients, and other grow gear, and they lost it all. It just backfired. But that didn't stop the CEO from speaking to President Trump about legalization, so let's hear what he had to say.
Doobies in the Diamond State. Delaware will soon be rolling in the green, literally. Starting tomorrow, recreational marijuana will be on sale legally for the first time in the state's history. Adults 21 and over will be able to purchase cannabis at 12 retail locations statewide. But reclassifying cannabis as a less dangerous drug than heroin doesn't seem to be at the top of the Trump administration's priorities right now. Even though he promised to do so during his Senate confirmation hearing back in April, newly sworn-in DEA Administrator Terrence Cole just released his top priorities list with, quote, renewed focus on enforcement, partnership, and public safety to meet the evolving threats of the global drug crisis. Missing from that list, reviewing where the DEA stands on the proposed rule to reclassify cannabis from a Schedule I drug, which includes deadly fentanyl and LSD, to a Schedule III drug under the Controlled Substances Act. Is hope going up in smoke for any cannabis-related company, and that would include ScottsMiracle-Gro, which sells equipment to cannabis growers, among other parts of their business?
Now, that story was nothing new, because we reported recently on the channel that Terrence Cole was confirmed and appointed as DEA Administrator, and despite the fact that in his confirmation hearing a few months ago he said that rescheduling will be one of his first priorities, it turns out that when the priority list was actually released, there was no rescheduling on it. Now, there may be multiple reasons for that, which we broke down in that video, so be sure to check it out. But let's hear what ScottsMiracle-Gro CEO had to say about rescheduling, and in particular, his conversations with President Trump about legalization. Have a listen.
ScottsMiracle-Gro Chairman and CEO Jim Hagedorn. Jim, let's talk about this first. How do you interpret the fact that Cole made no mention of reclassifying weed as a less dangerous substance? What do you learn from that?
Well, I think he's a career law enforcement guy. I'm not surprised by it. I think there's one person who could change it, and he's told me and others that he will, and that's the President of the United States, Donald Trump, who I'm a major fan of. So I think what he needs to hear is a call from the president or the chief of staff saying this is a promise he made during the campaign, and promises made or promises kept. I think that's what needs to happen. I don't expect, a law enforcement guy to lead with, let's make pot legal, even though it's legal in almost every state in the nation.
41 states at the moment. But Jim, so you spoke to the president recently, like since he's been in office the second time around, and he seemed very open to this reclassification?
Multiple times.
Wow.
Okay, so I don't know. It just feels like nobody does anything without the president's approval. So one minute he's saying he would, reclassify this or at least consider it. I'm talking about the DEA chief. And then suddenly he's not bringing it up. So let's talk about how this all looks through the prism of your business. And one of the parts of your business is the Hawthorne arm of it, which is the hydroponics business, everything from watering tools and lighting for cannabis. It's not the biggest part of your business, certainly, but tell me exactly how these brands are faring in the wake of what appears to be at least a stalled effort.
Well, I mean, it's a tale of two cities, really. The business is clearly smaller as a result of, it's because it's it says Schedule I. The tax rate is 80% on the federal side, and so nobody can make money. Everybody who has invested, like us, has been destroyed, and so there's no real capital available, and everybody's suffering because what we sell are mostly cultivation supplies, and those cultivation supplies are like capital, hard goods, and people aren't investing right now, and that's bad for the industry. Now, the other side of that is our business is now profitable after like a while where it wasn't. So we've had 3 profitable quarters in a row, and so it's not really hurting us, but it's a distraction. And what we're trying to do is take that business and use it as a tool for us and others to consolidate a pure pot business where it's not mixed in with a lawn and garden business and distracting our investors, especially when, it's a smaller business, and it's gotten to the point in our side where it's just, I'm not sure it's large enough for it to sort of take the distraction.
So what he's basically trying to say right there, other than the fact that he had conversations with President Trump when it comes to rescheduling, but he's pinpointing the fact that his lawn and garden business is not just related to cannabis, but it's also wider gardening. So a lot of people who take care of their backyards, plant roses, ephedrums, and all different types of plants, they will be using a lot of MiracleGro products. Heck, you can find MiracleGro at pretty much any Home Depot, Lowe's, any garden store. You can find it pretty much anywhere. Now, one thing that I found that he said was pretty interesting is that in a company of that size, there are tons of investors with deep pockets, and a lot of these investors may or may not be happy with him operating in the cannabis industry and servicing some of these grows. So what you will find is that he has a bunch of investors who are on board with the wider lawn and gardening business, but a bunch of those investors may not necessarily be involved or on board with the cannabis business. Now, ScottsMiracle-Gro and Hawthorne, they've got a large number of brands and companies under their umbrella, as you guys can see up on screen right now. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys are familiar with some of these brands. And with that being said, it probably made a lot of sense for ScottsMiracle-Gro to try to enter the medical herb market, and that's exactly what they tried to do 14 years ago. Turns out that they lost tons of money, but let's have a look at when they tried to enter the market.
Good morning. ScottsMiracle-Gro wants to get into the medical marijuana business, branching out from weed killer. The Wall Street Journal says Scotts wants to help people grow killer weed. Now, the paper says Scotts trying to break out from depending on Home Depot, Lowe's, and Walmart to sell its products, since the retailers aren't expanding as fast as they used to. Well, medical marijuana is illegal under federal law, but it is legal in more than 16 states.
Now, just a quick reminder, guys, if you're getting value from this video, please do like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support us further, join the ICANN VIP Bean Club or just buy us a cup of coffee. And if you happen to be a home gardener, try the ICANN Organics, use the code LEGAL, it works on the bundle and the beans.
This is the Financial News Network. I'm Chuck Pierce. Chief Executive of ScottsMiracle-Gro, Jim Hagedorn, told the Wall Street Journal Tuesday that the company is considering entering the medical marijuana market to help boost sales of lawn and garden products, especially weed killer. Hagedorn told the newspaper, quote, "I want to target the pot market. There's no good reason we haven't."
So ScottsMiracle-Gro saw an opportunity to get into the medical herb market, and they took that opportunity. They actually spent tons of money to get into the industry, and they bought tons of brands and tons of companies and got them under their umbrella. And as you would so have it, ScottsMiracle-Gro supplies tons of home gardeners here in America, but also over in Canada.
Scott's Hawthorne segment is the top supplier of hydroponic cultivation equipment to the U.S. and Canadian cannabis markets.
And bearing that in mind, they even tried to invest in the industry through a Canadian cannabis firm. Check it out.
ScottsMiracle-Gro is lending $150 million to a Canadian firm that invests in the U.S. cannabis industry. The story comes to us from our partners at Columbus Business First. The Marysville lawn and garden supplier created a subsidiary, Hawthorne Collective, this to make the investment. The money almost doubles the available funds to invest by Toronto RIV Capital. RIV says it is keeping cash from Scott separate to ensure none of it goes to companies that actually handle the cannabis plants, which the U.S. federal government still considers illegal.
Now, I want to get back to what the CEO of ScottsMiracle-Gro had to say about President Trump and rescheduling, but before we do, with all that money flying around, why exactly did they fail when they tried to enter the medical herb industry? Well, it turns out there are multiple reasons. So let's have a look at how investing in the cannabis industry in the wrong way almost took down a multi-million-dollar company and destroyed it completely.
Today on Forbes, weed kills. How investing in cannabis almost took down ScottsMiracle-Gro. It's a beautiful, chilly November day in Las Vegas, and Jim Hagedorn, the CEO, president, and chairman of Ohio-based lawn care giant ScottsMiracle-Gro, is pissed off. Scotts spent $1.7 billion building pot-focused subsidiary Hawthorne Gardening Company and acquiring grow light manufacturers, hydroponic supply outfits, plant nutrient makers, and other cannabis cultivation supply companies. But after nearly a decade of making a series of audacious bets on the legal cannabis industry, Hagedorn admits the venture has been an abject failure. Inside his company's booth at MJ BizCon, the largest annual cannabis industry expo held at the Las Vegas Convention Center, Hagedorn throws a booklet of rolling papers across the table to make a point. Referring to Hawthorne, which is run by his 39-year-old son, Chris, the 68-year-old Hagedorn says, quote, "This is what our equity is worth." The notoriously foul-mouthed former F-16 fighter pilot, who named his private jet F-Bomb, continues, quote, "When we started making acquisitions in the cannabis industry, it felt righteous as shit." Back in 2015, when only 4 states, Alaska, Colorado, Oregon, and Washington, had legalized recreational marijuana, Hawthorne started spending hundreds of millions acquiring companies like General Hydroponics for $120 million, a Santa Rosa-based indoor gardening supply company, to get into the marijuana industry's ancillary market. The move helped the Hagedorns grab glossy magazine headlines, and Scott's stock price started to rise from the mid-$50 range to above $60 a share. By May 2021, the company acquired more cannabis-focused companies, like Lux Lighting, purchased for $213.2 million, a grow light company started by the founders of respected weed brand Jungle Boys. The company also brokered a $150 million convertible debt deal with Canadian cannabis investment vehicle Riv Capital. Scott's stock bloomed to a robust $244.
So with all this money flying around, it seems that everything is going pretty well. I mean, you're acquiring tons of brands, even linking up with Jungle Boys and their lighting fixtures. So where did it all go wrong? Well, it turns out there are multiple reasons as to why things all went south.
But thanks to the marijuana industry's prolonged recession, driven by the oversupply of cannabis, a crashing wholesale price per pound of weed, a punitive federal tax code applied to cannabis companies, a lack of movement at the federal level to legalize marijuana, and sales at Scotts dropping from $4.9 billion in 2021 to $3.5 billion in 2023, Scotts' share price cratered 75% from its high 2 years ago. Hawthorne, which saw its sales decrease by nearly 35% from 2022 to 2023 and posted a net loss of $48 million for the year, had to terminate 1,000 employees from its 1,300-person staff, and shuttered Lux Lighting after disposing of $200 million worth of unsold inventory in a landfill. Hagedorn says that the company is now worth, quote, zero or less. Hagedorn, wearing a National Rifle Association hat emblazoned with a Don't Tread on Me logo, says, quote, "Look, pot almost took us down." Bring up Scotts in front of cannabis investors and they'll laugh and hurl insults like how the Hagedorns are, quote, effing morons, or, quote, arrogant idiots, for blowing through $1.7 billion. But the father and son team are smart and humble enough to roll with the abuse.
Now, one thing is for sure, you mentioned ScottsMiracle-Gro to a can of home grower and they'll be like, that sucks, don't use it. But the truth is, it's a massive company with massive pockets and tons of investors. And if we're being real, they're probably not going anywhere anytime soon. So the story of ScottsMiracle-Gro is pretty interesting and quite the ride, but let's take it back to the CEO, James Hagedorn, and hear what are his thoughts on tariffs and how that's impacting him being in the home gardening community.
What about tariffs? Tell me if you're affected at all by that. I know you're very American-based in many regards, but give me a sense of how you are watching those headlines come through.
Look, I'm a major supporter of President Trump. Our biggest single import is peat moss from Canada, out of our own bogs. And that is still covered under the MCA, and it's an agricultural product, so that's 0%. We've got some nits and gnats, which is like spreader parts that we import from China, and, you know, just a bunch of nits and gnats. Some of the active ingredients are foreign-based that are coming in that we use. And so I think we're probably talking less than $15 million a year in tariffs, which I would say is virtually zeros. So there are a lot of people in the industry who have issues. It's not us.
So this story was really interesting. Not just the fact that ScottsMiracle-Gro has tried to dabble in medical herb in the past and lost millions and millions of dollars, but the fact that they're still fighting for legalization. The CEO of MiracleGro is having conversations with President Trump urging him to legalize the good herb. So let me know what you guys think about all that. that, even though some of you guys may not necessarily support MiracleGro, do you guys think that they're doing a good thing when it comes to legalization and pushing for the good herb to be legalized at a federal level? Drop it in the comments down below and let me know. And I'm pretty sure that you guys may have missed this, but there's an activist spending millions of dollars on all types of ads spreading propaganda about the good herb and trying to get it to be banned on the federal level and also block rescheduling completely. So if you haven't seen it, check it out because that video is coming up right now.